Hello guys, and welcome back to the Stacey West YouTube channel. I'm Ben, and I'm joined by Gaz. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, not bad. I don't know if my camera angle's good. I might be slouching a little bit here, and I'm still sporting last year's kit because I'm too tight to spend money on the new one. So I am in camouflage if I ever happen to find myself in a marshmallow factory.
Yeah, or a rave. That'll be another one. But yeah, so we obviously did our deadline day live stream on Friday, which has gone down an absolute treat. And one of the things that we'd sort of had in the pocket for in case things got quiet is just a bit of sort of evergreen silly content, really. So we've got a tier list that we're going to put together of all of Lincoln City's deadline day signings since we came back into the Football League. So
just
here we are.
Before you go on, I'm not trendy, so you'll have to explain what a tier list is.
So a tier list, basically, we've set some tiers up here. So, for example, we've got Starman, solid signing, had potential, will do for cover, and who. And what we have to do is discuss between us where we think these signings fit into each of the tiers. And then at the end of it, we've got a definitive list that is definitely not wrong, and no one's ever going to argue about it. And that's how the internet works. So yeah, we've got, I say, starting with the first deadline day where we had a signing in January 2018. And this is Tom Pett. So Tom Pett came into the club on deadline day. And what I think the best thing to do is talk about, because obviously there are going to be some loans that came in full time as well after the fact. So we thought, well, we'll discuss their overall impact in the football club, I think, rather than just their loan spell. So Tom Pett obviously came in as a permanent deal, 55 appearances, 4 goals. Where do you think, Gaz, Tom Pett would sit in this list?
Just 4 goals. That surprises me.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously one very memorable one, which was I think it was Yeovil, wasn't it, where he scored and took us.
Can't be that memorable for you if you were saying you think it was.
I remember the goal. It's just that one where it's like, I think he was against Yeovil.
It was Yeovil. I was in hospital.
Yeah, scored it and put us into the playoff spots that season. So, where do you think Tom Pett sits in the list?
I think Tom was a solid signing. I don't think he was a star man, but I think Tom was a good player for us in the title-winning season, and probably a good League Two player. But I think that he was a solid signing. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'd fully agree with that. I think that there's some others on the list that will sit above and below, because that's how these work. But yeah, one that solid signing for Tom Pett, then I think is fair enough. So next up we have, on the same deadline day, was Scott Wharton. 14 appearances, 2 goals, and then came in the following season, 11 appearances and 1 goal the following year. So Scott Wharton, where would we put Scott?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because really good player, has gone on to play for Blackburn. But where did he fit in the Lincoln City squad? Is that's the question? Is it not what they were? And down, are we talking about in terms of his first spell or overall?
Overall. So the first spell was the loan, and then obviously he came in again. So what I initially thought, should we just do it on the loan spell the spell that is related to that deadline day if it is a loan? However, there's a couple later down the line where they've had a much bigger impact on the club and going forward. So I think probably looking at their overall contribution to the club's the best way to look at it.
Oh, okay. Well, I think Scott Wharton had potential, but I don't think he ever asserted himself because he wasn't here long enough as a solid signing.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that one. So there we go. Scott Wharton had potential.
Are we going to disagree on any, Ben, do you think?
I don't know. I think there's one coming up that I think you've probably got a bit of a softer spot than I have overall for him. So
Okay.
we'll see where they slot in. But yeah. So right, next up on the list we have Ryan Alsop. Came into the club, made 16 appearances. Where do we reckon this one's going to sit? Do you want me to start on this one?
Yeah, why not, Ben?
So yeah, I mean, I would put him at initially. I thought, well, will do for cover. He came in, but as we've just had a little chat, a little peek behind the curtain. But yeah, Gary has reminded me that he came in and did actually displace our first choice keeper for quite a few games in that season. So yeah, I think moving him up to I think had potential probably sits well with me. I don't know if we'd have had Ryan Alsop in for the entire season, whether he would have been in that spot for the whole season. Could well have been, given the fact that he did displace Paul Farman. But yeah, where would you think he sits in this one?
I think he's a solid signing, and I'm happy to be led by you. But he kept a number of clean sheets in big games as we made our way through to the games against Exeter City. I thought he actually did really well. I was upset that he displaced Paul Farman because Paul was a favourite of mine, but I think Ryan saving the penalty against Chelsea to put us in the final makes him almost by proxy a solid signing, and he had a good game in the final as well. Those two games alone earned us a lot of money, so I think he's a solid signing.
Okay, no, I'm happy to go with that. Yeah, so let's move Ryan Alsop into solid signings. Another one that I think will probably fit in this spot, Jason Shackle. Came in on deadline day, made 60 appearances for the Imps, has scored 6 goals. I think this is easily one that fits into the top 2. Whether he quite fits into Starman, I don't know. I think there's a lot of people that will remember Jason Shackle for his thunderbolt of a free kick down at the bank that time. But let's not forget he was a great defender, wasn't he?
Well, the thing is, he'd got experience. Do you know what I mean? He'd played at the very, very top level. And in our title winning season, he started 33 games. He was a leader. I think that he was a huge capture. I think that his influence around the club was much greater than we probably saw. I think Jason Shackle was a star man. I think he was a big, big signing for us.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I think there's probably 3 in this list that I think will easily fit into Starman. And yeah, Shackle being the first one. Like I said, he had a lot about him, and I was a big fan when he was here. So, okay, the one that I thought we might possibly have a little bit of a disagreement on. Next up is Juan Luque, who made 1 appearance for the Imps. Now, Juan Luque came in, and I think you said on the show on Friday that you liked the idea of it because finally we had a project player. And unfortunately, it didn't really work out for him at the Imps. But he's gone on to have a semi-successful career in non-league football. Would you say?
Semi-successful. He actually made 4 appearances for Lincoln. He only made 1 in the league, but he made 1 in the EFL Cup and 2 in the Football League trophies. Last game was against Accrington, the game where Tom Shaw played and Jamie McCoon played. I'm not even going to have him as will do for cover. It didn't work out. For me, it's a who. Yeah, decent non-league, but Lincoln over the years have had too many players that have gone on just to end up playing in non-league. So for me, he's a who. I don't know what you think, Ben.
Well, I was going to say who as well, because I thought you'd drop him into will do for cover because you had a self-professed soft spot for him on the show on Friday. So.
I liked the idea of him, but I like the idea of a lot of things. I like the idea of a cream tea. Now I know what it is. Actually, I really like the idea of it. But, sometimes it's not quite as good as you think. So no, I'm not having Juan Luque.
Okay, right. Juan Luque goes into who? Now, next up, we've got another keeper. This is Matt Gilks, who came in and made 12 appearances for us. Now, I'm going to put Matt Gilks in there in solid signing for me for one reason only, and that is the save away at MK Dons.
That was straight at him.
I'm putting him in there. I'm going to put him in solid signing because he made that save, and then shortly afterwards we went up and Bruno Andrade scored that goal and sent everybody in the stand into absolute raptures. So that, for me, that moment puts him in that tier. Where do you reckon he sits?
It was straight at him. But then he kept clean sheets against Morecambe and Yeovil and Oldham and Crawley and MK Dons. So I think he was a solid signing. I would love him to come back. And I think if we'd had him we won the title anyway, but if we'd had him all season, if he'd arrived in the summer window, he'd be a star man. I can't put a player who played 12 games into star man. It's not happening.
Yeah. No, I'd fully agree. I think that's a good spot for him. Next up, we have one of the times that we've signed Lee Angle. I think this time that he came in, he made 2 appearances. I think we stick him in will do for cover. I know we've said that it's about what they did on the whole at the club. However, this is kind of one where he's come in for, I think this was the 3rd time when we signed him in when was it?
We've only signed him twice.
2019. Yeah.
We signed him in the National League.
Times.
No, we signed him in the National League, and then he went to Mansfield, and then we brought him in on loan in the title-winning season.
Yeah, I know we signed him in the title-winning season. That was where I've got him in there. So
yeah,
for me, I think he goes in that will do for cover level. Particularly based on this one. I mean, he only made 2 appearances this time round, but if we're looking at the overall picture, I don't know. Where do you think?
Well, do you know what? I was impressed with you because you picked exactly where I think he should be, even though he only played twice. And then you blotted your copybook by thinking it was the 3rd time. But actually, you were spot on because he may have only played twice, but we don't know what would have happened if somebody had been injured. And as a League Two striker, he was a solid enough capture. So the fact he didn't play in this instance, in my opinion, is irrelevant. What we looked to do in that transfer window is add depth. We also brought James Brown in a little earlier in that window. So you are, in my opinion, quite correct. And I think it should be will do for cover.
There we go. So, right. Lee Angle sitting in will do for cover. Next up is a man that I will be brutally honest, I'm struggling to remember. And that is Jake Hesketh, who came in 20 appearances, 1 goal. What do we think? I think it's in one of the bottom 2, to be brutally honest with you. However, I am willing to be proved wrong, as I often am by yourself.
Well, the thing with Jake Hesketh is that he was really bad for us, in my opinion. Scored 1 goal against Ipswich, I think, when we beat them 5-3. He was kept out of the side by Jack Payne, and that was the wrong decision. I believe that Hesketh, because he scored the 1 goal and because he made 14 starts and he had a little bit of energy. I think he made his debut against Man United under 21s because I think he was a Danny Cowley signing that was injured and then was only fit when Michael Appleton took over. But I can only have him as will do for cover. I can't have him as anything else.
Okay, no, I think that's probably fair. So next up was Max Melbourne, who came in on the summer 2019 deadline day. Max played twice during his loan spell, but then came in on a permanent deal, playing 21 times and scoring 1 goal. I think these may be league appearances, as I have taken them off of Wikipedia, which is always a sin. So Max Melbourne, probably I don't know, bit of a difficult time at Lincoln until he found a way out. Would you say?
Yeah, definitely. Didn't play when he first came in. I think he was like that kind of really base loan under Danny Cowley. Barely played, came in. Michael Appleton gave him some security and then didn't play him. His 1 goal was practically his last touch in a Lincoln shirt against Plymouth. Made an error, if I remember correctly, against Wickham. Him and Josh Griffiths got all mixed up when he was given a start. Solid enough player, decent cover for Lincoln, but for me, that was the extent of it. So I would say will do for cover.
Okie doke. So yeah, there we go. Max Melbourne. Now, one that I think is probably going to be joining Jason Shackle in that top tier next. We've got Liam Bridcut, who came in on loan in the January 2020 window. Only made 5 appearances, but that was obviously in the season that was not a full season and all the rest of it. So that was in the curtailed season, but then came back in and played a further 37 games for the Imps in the league. So can you have any arguments outside of Liam Bricker being placed in that top tier?
Oh God, yeah, without a doubt. One of the best players I've ever seen to play for Lincoln, but he was never fit. I thought we were only talking about what they did in their first loan spell rather than their second spell, which is then we're going to be talking about 5 games in a curtailed season. I think he was a solid signing, but he just didn't play enough. Jason Shackle started 33 league games in a single season, and we've put him as star man. You just said Liam Bridcut, I think, started 35, but that's across 2 full seasons as a permanent signing. Fantastic footballer, no doubt whatsoever. Just didn't see enough of him to warrant him being a star man. For me, if you only play 25% of your team's games, you can't be a star man. And of course, it's that, who did we say about the coming in for the one spell? Scott Wharton, we were judging him on his first spell, not his second spell, kind of thing. So I could argue solid signing for Liam Bridcut as much as I like him.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I have him as a star man, but I think that's me looking at the overall picture. And what he brought to everything away from the pitch as well once he was made captain. So yeah, I would. Sorry, Breds, but you're going in solid signing for the time being. So next up, we have Cohen Bramall, signed in January 2021, 47 appearances, 1 goal. For me, this is a solid signing as well. I think he had a decent spell at the Imps. I think the only it was I was at the game at Shrewsbury where he did his hamstring, which was essentially one of his last moves in a Lincoln shirt, and that was pretty heartbreaking to see. I thought he had a lot of I'm going to say exactly what's going to put him in another tier now, but I thought he had a lot of potential. I think he realised a lot of it at Lincoln, but I think maybe it was just one of those signings where we had enough depth in the squad. I think that maybe pushed him out a little bit too much.
Yeah, I wouldn't have him as a solid signing. Not being critical of him, I think he had potential. He was really quick, but he was, in my eyes, he was never a first choice left back during his time at Lincoln. He would have actually looked really good in this Lincoln City side now as a left wing back if we could have instilled some left back defensive discipline into him. I think that he's a decent player, but he was one when he left, I was really surprised that it was up and not down. I thought he'd be somebody that ended up going back to Colchester or something like that. Done all right for himself since with Rotherham. I think he's started about 61 games for them, but he doesn't have enough of the end product. The potential was always there, but for me, there wasn't enough goals or assists for an attacking left back, and defensively he was naive. So I would have him that had potential. Depends if you're going to put your foot down then, Bone, doesn't it?
No, I'll agree with you, because I did say the words had. I did say the words he had potential when I was doing it. So yeah, that's a fair one.
You painted yourself into a corner there, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Right, next up, Max Melbourne, Max Melbourne,
we've done him.
Max Sanders. Max Sanders, same window, January 2021, came in, made 57 appearances for the club, scored 1 goal. I think this was one where the fans wanted to see him a lot more than we did. Maybe was frozen out a little bit by Michael Appleton at the time. And then when he came in, I think there was maybe 1 or 2 mistakes which sort of sealed his exit, really, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. For me, he was one that always looked like, and I'm going to paint myself into a corner here, had potential, but he just never realised it. And I was a Max Sanders fan for a while. I'd seen things of him. I bought into the hype from his time at Brighton. But unfortunately, by the end of his time there, if he played, somebody else was injured. So for that kind of dictates that you've almost will do for cover. And had potential is something that we can almost judge a little bit with hindsight, because if you look at him go had potential and he's gone on to realise it, brilliant, you understand he had potential. I think we've put Scott Wharton in that and Cohen Bramall in that, players that were all right for us but have then gone on to play in the Championship, so they clearly did have potential. Max Sanders currently can't get into, I think he was at Leyton Orient last I know. I think he may have moved on from there as well. So for me, I think that he is not quite bottom tier,
Will do
I
for
do
cover.
think he'd do for cover. Yeah, in my opinion. He's at Crewe now, actually.
Oh, okay. Oh, I was not aware he'd moved.
I was,
So
but I couldn't remember who to.
fair enough. Right. We're getting towards the modern day, as it were, now. So we've got Jamie Robson up next, left
Who?
back. Got Jamie Robson coming summer 2021. 39 appearances, no goals before moving on. I'll let you take the lead on Jamie Robson, guys.
Hugely disappointing. A player that I know we spent a decent sum on, never got going, never impressed in a Lincoln shirt. Looked like he might have done, but I think there was more going on behind the scenes. I try and think about one positive game that Jamie Robson played. You know, like with Max Melbourne, you think, oh yeah, there was Plymouth, or Cohen Bramwell, you think, yeah, he was quick, he had a good free kick. And even like Jake Hesketh, you've got the Ipswich winner and stuff like that. But with Jamie Robson, I can't actually remember anything positive. When I think Jamie Robson, my two thoughts are assisting against us for Forest Green and scoring, I think, for Dundee United against Rangers or Celtic or something like that. So for his time at Lincoln, I think he's bottom tier.
So Jamie Robson, he's dropping into that bottom tier. So, and let's not forget, Cohen Bramwell smells lovely. So next up, we have Matty Virtue coming in summer 2022. Came in on loan, played 30 times for the Imps, got 3 goals. I would probably put Matty in solid signing. I think there was a lot of people that were hoping that we could make his loan deal permanent when it reached the end of that loan spell. What about you, Gaz? Do we think he's going up to all right in that tier, or do you reckon he sits one above or below?
I agree with you on that. I think he was a solid signing. He was injured a little bit. I think we looked a lot better with him in the side, but it was Mark Kennedy's side. It was really hard to look good in that side at all. So I am going to allow that. When I say allow, without argument, not because I am the boss, but I will allow that into solid signing, I think. Interesting. Yeah. There's not many star men sign as a deadline day signing.
No, and that's one of the reasons that I thought about doing this, because I thought, everybody always says, about deadline day, we need to get X, Y, Z in, and you always expect the big name coming in on deadline day to go in and hit the star man level, but it doesn't always work like that. However, the next one, I might as well just put him in there straight away. Ethan Arahan.
Oh yeah, next. Yep, next.
Yeah, no further discussions, Your Honour.
Do you know what? I was looking at it because I'm looking at it on a really small screen, and I couldn't work out who it was. I couldn't see the picture properly, and actually, because the image is absolutely tiny, just with the haircut and the smile. From here, he looks like a famous footballer from the 80s, and I'm saying that purely not because of race, by the way. I don't want people jumping on me for that, but just because it's somebody looking like somebody else. From here, there's a John Barnes vibe. I'm thinking, we didn't sign John Barnes on deadline day, did we? I can't spot any of these players. There's another 3 coming up. I think I can see Conor McGrandles, but I don't know if that's Freddie Draper. We're going to find out anyway in a minute. So
yeah,
I know that one. I know the next one.
So there we go. Arahan, just bang in star man. There we go. Right. Next up, we've got Dylan Duffy, currently on 43 league appearances with 3 goals. I'm fairly certain this one sits in solid signing straight off the bat. Unless there's anything that you can think of to bump him up. I think he's been solid for the Imps so far, and obviously he's still quite young in his career. So, where do we think?
So he's still quite young in his career, so he's still got potential. We've got had potential. I think with Dylan Duffy, it has potential. I think to put someone as a solid signing, he's played 43 games, but probably not started all that many of those. I think that it's quite a tough one, because actually has potential, could technically be a precursor to solid signing without particularly knowing.
Yeah,
I think Duffy is still one with potential. I still think he's got a lot to prove, but he's still a relatively young man. So I would have him in has potential. But if you want to put him in solid signing, Ben, you bloody put him in solid signing and get your way.
All right, I'm stamping my feet.
I said had potential.
Dylan Duffy goes in solid signing for me. There we go. Right. Another one who, I mean, he's not going to be trouble in the top. The top tiers here. We've got Jack Vale, came in 14 appearances, 1 goal.
Is that Jack Vale?
Yeah.
It looks like Charlie Russell, who used to work on the media team from here.
It does
in my
look
opinion.
it, yeah. Yeah, so Jack Vale obviously came in to a bit of, I mean, there was kind of fanfare. I think we didn't really anticipate him coming in, but then he did, and he's.
If we didn't anticipate it, how can there be fanfare?
Well, I mean, when it was announced, it was one of those where we went, "Oh, okay, we've got a striker." Okay,
I didn't. I dribbled beer into my chin and carried on
Well,
dancing because I was drunk.
I do remember your very brief live stream after that announcement. But I mean, yeah, 14 appearances, 1 goal for a striker. I don't think he's going to be trouble in the top, is he?
He's not going to be trouble in the top 4 for me. Terrible signing.
Yep.
Arrived injured, which didn't. And he's not a terrible player, but it was poor signing. Arrived injured and scored 2 goals for the club. But if you look at his Football League shots, I think he had 2 shots the whole time he was here. The fact that one of them went in only makes him marginally better than Luke Plans, who had 1 shot on target during his whole loan spell. But yeah, for me, Jack Vale is a who.
Absolutely. Right, next up, we've got the 2 most recent ones, because we aren't including Saxon early in this because there is literally no point, because he signed on Friday and he wasn't even eligible to play at the weekend. So next up, we have Zach Bradshaw. Now, I think this is one where it's one of 2.
It's one
and
of one.
I really don't want to be harsh about it because we just simply don't know enough.
No, it's one of one. There's only 1 tier that he can be put in there.
Yep. And that's who?
What? No, of course it's not. It's his potential. Get him out of who? I hope you've done that as a joke.
Yep.
Good. You could claim it as a joke anyway at my indignance.
No, absolutely has potential. Like, there's a reason that we've signed him, and the fact that he's gone out on loan. And I think he made an immediate impact over the weekend, didn't he?
Pass.
Yeah, I
it wouldn't
to
be an
recall
immediate impact because I think he's played in more than 1 game.
Okay, I thought he.
So an immediate impact would be on his debut, wouldn't it?
Very true. But yeah, he made an impact at the weekend from what I can recall. But yeah, one for the future, definitely, and one that we're going to keep an eye on. So the final signing.
Sorry, he's played 6 times for Tranmere already.
Okay, he got an assist at the weekend, didn't he?
Possibly, and he started his first league game at the weekend as well.
Okay, there we go. So, yeah, bags of potential for Zach. Hopefully, he can realise it with the Imps. So, final one. Conor McGrandles coming in January 2024, announced on the Stacey West Deadline Day show. Came in, played 5 times in his brief spell before sadly taking a bit of a knock, but obviously coming back on a permanent deal in the summer. Now, for me, I think this sits in solid signing, despite the fact that he only played 5 times, because in those 5 appearances, he looked really, really impressive and added a lot of essentially what we needed at the time in what was looking to be a tricky run-in. Anything that you can argue on that one?
No, I can't. You can't put him as star man, despite the fact he would be a regular first team player if he stayed fit. We can't put had potential because we know what he's all about. We couldn't do for cover because he was injured, and when he was fit, he was playing permanently. And you can't do who because we know exactly who he is and what he's capable of. So it cannot possibly be anything other than solid signing.
And there we go. That is the definitive no arguments list of Lincoln City's deadline day signings since we came back into the Football League. In the Who tier, we have Juan Luque, Jamie Robson, and Jack Vale. We'll do for cover. We've got Lee Angle, Jake Hesketh, Max Melbourne, and Max Sanders. Had potential. We've got Scott Wharton, Cohen Bramall, and Zach Bradshaw. Solid signings. We've got Tom Pett. We have Ryan Alsop. We've got Matt Gilks. We've got Liam Bridcut, Matty Virtue, Dylan Duffy, and Conor McGrandles. And then 2 star men we've signed on deadline day, being Ethan Arahan and, of course, Jason Shackle. So
brilliant. That was good, wasn't it? I enjoyed that.
Yeah, good. So we've got no arguments there in the list. We're happy with how that one turned out.
Could do with the window closing now, couldn't I? The lighting's not great.
But no, that's going to do us for this one.
Time just well, because my pasta's going to be ready now. Dead on 6 o'clock as we're recording.
Beautiful. Absolutely right. Well, you're looking rather hench these days, Gaz.
Do you think that? I was actually stretching, but
I'm just stretching. I'm just stretching.
I actually was just stretching, but as you haven't, yeah, I've been doing weights.
So that's going to do us, guys. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed it, do let us know down below. Let us know if you want to see some more. We're just trying a few things out at the minute for a little bit of content. And yeah, we'll see you soon. Get subscribed. And until next time, up the Imps.
Up the Imps.
Lincoln City are the team, the Ravens is their name. Stinsel Bankers, their home ground, and football is their game. So come and cheer them on, you lads, support them all the way. Oh, 'tis our delight for the red and white, the Imps are here to stay. Oh,